Hey, it's Doug from the Rise Web Gym channel. Have you just finished rehabilitating some lower body pain that you had and think you're all good to go and you can go back to doing what you normally do? Yes, that's probably the case, but you still should always do some physical therapy or rehabilitation type exercises, and I have 5 that you should keep in the routine at all times. Let's check them out. Now, just because you're feeling better and the therapy exercises are all finished with and you've graduated, doesn't mean you should just go back and do your normal things without focusing on it. Physical therapy and rehab exercises are great because they're pinpointed to a weak area that you had. Now, when we go back to do big global lifts like squats and deadlifts for the lower body, we can sometimes fall back into where our body was before, either an injury or muscle weakness with the other muscles taking over. So it's a good idea to continue to do therapy or rehab type exercises. Now, I don't think anything is necessarily a therapy or rehab type exercise per se. I think all exercises are good, especially when you really figure out what you need to do. But these are ones that are commonly used in rehabilitation or physical therapy protocols that you should always do. Good thing is they're pretty low level, they don't stress the body out, and they can be done as a warm-up. They can be done in between, so if you're doing bench day, you can do these in between. Or they can also be done on a day when you don't really feel like working out and you just want to get something done and you know you need to maintain these things. They're also a good check-in with the body to see how well your progress is either held up or diminished. We want to try to keep the balance of the legs going and make sure like those smaller muscles continue to work and do what they need to do to help us be strong all around. The first exercise I have that you want to constantly do is some type of hip bridging. So the basic way would be a 2-foot bridge where we keep our low back flat. You can have your hands on the ground, head on the ground, and we just squeeze our butt. Are you able to stay flat? Are you able to stay stable? And are you able to be smooth? Next, you can do the one-legged version, leg in parallel, same thing. Are you able to be flat at the top without the hip dropping? Are you able to be smooth, decelerate on the way down? You can also cross over, open up the hip, do the same thing. You can also put your foot on something like this, single leg, and practice the bridge that way. That one causes a little bit of instability, so I got to use my hamstring a little bit more. So always keep some type of bridging in, which is good for hip extension, running. Also good for a little bit of hamstring stability. So when we jump, run, or cut, we got to have that to be able to perform those duties and not hurt ourselves again. The second exercise I'm going to have you do is some type of hamstring curl. Now the hamstrings, which are the back of the leg muscles, extend the hip, kind of help us from bending over to standing up and also accelerate our body. They also decelerate as well, but it's also that hip extension, what we're talking about, the jumping, the running, which we most commonly think of and most commonly do within our workouts, like deadlifts and step-ups. But we also got to think about leg curling. So the hamstrings curl or flex the leg much like a bicep does. I know even for myself, if I don't do it very often, I'm kind of more prone to cramping if I overdo it, or if it's really hot outside and I'm running a lot, I'll start to cramp because the leg is not up to par. So I should do more of these. One way to do it is with a stability ball that you've probably done in your rehab. And we want to curl here. So we just did our bridging. So I want to bridge again, curl in without dropping the hips and extending slowly without dropping the hips. The closer the ball is to me, the easier it is. The further out, a little bit harder. Once you graduate, you can go to a single leg version, curling in, extending out with stability and not dropping the hip. So that is a good way to work primarily on the flexion of the hamstring to build up that endurance so you don't cramp up or you don't pull a hamstring going forward. Exercise number 3, mini band work. These are really cheap to get and they go a long way with your training to kind of focus on the hip rotators and the hip stabilizers, the smaller hip muscles. They can be overactive or underutilized, and that can cause a lot of problems. The hips are a tricky joint. area because it's a junction for a lot of muscles. So one's overactive, it could pull it one way, one's underactive, it cannot work at all, cause low back pain, cause muscle dysfunction and movement dysfunction. So we want to maintain these. Obviously, we got the basics where we can just do some lateral walks. I like to go slow. Some people go fast, but I like to go really slow to make sure I control it in. You can step out and in, step out and in. When I was at a recent MLS soccer game, they were doing these things all the time for even a warm-up. And you can step laterally, and then backwards, controlling back, backwards, controlling back, taking note on the sides, which are better or not. So one might be, you can't control it at all. That's the side you need to work on. So walks are great. You can do other things like leg abduction, which is basically bringing the top off the bottom. Squeeze the glute, bring this up, and again, I want to control down. Also, when I lift, I don't want to use momentum. I isolate, pause for a second, and then control down. I want to fully own it. Clamshell's a classic one. Squeeze, hold, and down. Again, I'm not rolling my hips. My hips are staying neutral. I'm pausing for a second, and then controlling back down. So those are good ways to get the smaller hip and glute rotators actively working to promote good hip stability and strength. The next one I have for you are step downs. I call them eccentric step downs. Rehab and PT specialists tend to use these to teach the body to decelerate. So when we land, we're not collapsing. It strengthens the knee as well. So all the muscles around the knee help strengthen them. So the common way is to go from a side, is pulling the toe up, looking up. You can counterbalance with your hands, and you can step down and tap your heel and up. And what we're looking for is not collapsing of the knee. So I can just go down and not collapsing of the hip either. I'm keeping my hips pretty level and then coming back up. You can also do another way you can do this is forward. So again, I'm going to make sure my knee doesn't cave inward. I'm going to have my arms out for counterbalance. I'm going to reach forward, little tap, and then come back up. And as you get better, you can add more reps, and you can raise the box as well to make it a little bit harder and give you a little more range of motion. Lastly, the fifth exercise, and these aren't necessarily a glam muscle exercise, which they can be, are calf raises or toe raises. The reason why I put these in a lot of athletes' program is because we want to strengthen up the Achilles and make sure we have proper ankle mobility, especially going forward. If we don't have enough ankle mobility going forward, that's going to put a lot of stress through the chain, up the knee, up the hip, into the low back, and do some damage up there. So in physical therapy, they do these a lot to ankle rehab, Achilles rehab, even knee and hip rehab. But we want to keep these going. So we can do two-footed versions where we drop down and up. We can do one-footed versions, down and up. You can add weight to it as well once you get better. I also like to have all my athletes be able to do these on the floor on their own without, the box or without holding on, and especially the one-legged version as well, and getting up as high as they can and controlling down. So if they're going up and then collapsing, we know we need to work on it. I might have them start with a finger on the wall and then down, and then see if they can kind of hold and own it as they go. It's going to help with running and everything. Imagine when you're running, you're extending through. We got to have the ankles strong, mobile, and stable. So there you have it. Those are my 5 rehabilitation physical therapy exercises that you should always do within your programming. Again, you don't need to do them a lot. You just got to do them once a week and make sure everything's good. If something's not right, you focus on it a little bit more. If it's something good, you just keep it in the mix and keep maintenance mode going. If you have any questions, please put them down below and I'll be happy to answer them. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.